Hello, everyone. Welcome to 3Q, New Mexico's business podcast. I am your host, Pam Myers, and I am here with my wonderful co host, the fabulous Erica Yoakum.
I like that.
And our
Boo. Sorry.
our guest today is Michael Meade. Michael is with Positive Energy Solar and sells solar all over New Mexico.
Northern New Mexico, yeah.
Yeah. So welcome,
Mhm.
Michael. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Yeah, so happy to be here with you.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
you do like what are there areas you don't go to?
Well, we're basically servicing within 60 miles of Albuquerque and Santa Fe.
Okay.
So the majority of the populous area of New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Very
And
cool. It's New Mexico, so it's like sunny all the time. This is the perfect spot. There
right.
should be rows and rows and rows of solar farms out here, in my
hmm
opinion.
hmm
Of course, it has to be New Mexico sun, so it has to be like super strong solar panels because
Yeah.
New
Yeah,
Mexico sun will eat anything.
yeah. Well, we only use the best.
Awesome.
And tell I mean and it's amazing because you would think solar would be like everywhere, but I don't have a single friend that has solar on their home, which I thought was weird. And we were having a conversation about it um, after I had met you at a networking meeting, right, Michael? And then um, we were like, well, we really don't know anything about solar. So talk to us about how it works.
hmm Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Only 5% of homes in New Mexico have solar.
Wow.
And being a state for the majority of the state receives 300 days of sun every year.
Right.
It's surprising.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you're pointing to the questions of why don't more people access solar.
Mhm.
I think there's some main points around. One, there's some beliefs that are holding people back from even getting a consultation.
Mhm.
Maybe some beliefs that it's too expensive, that it's going to hurt my roof, that it's not a priority for me right now. I got to get a new roof, or I got to get a new heating system first. So basically that's pointing to the primary question of what are folks' priorities.
Mhm.
And what is the advantage of accessing solar on your own home? Well, lots. One, we become immune to the fluctuations of the cost of energy from our utility companies.
Mhm.
Basically, once a person has paid off their solar system, they have their own power plant on the roof or
Mhm.
on a ground mount in their property, and they essentially don't have electric bills after that. So it's all savings. Of course, there's the environmental benefits of reducing our carbon footprint,
Mhm.
which solar power is extremely has an extremely much lower footprint than coal powered energy
Oh
for the
Right.
yeah.
same kilowatt hour.
Mhm.
And then beyond that, when folks pair with battery power, you have immunity to grid shortages. If the grid goes out, you still have power running.
Mhm. Right. Right.
Mhm.
Wow.
We
Oh,
currently have 3 panels plugged in, and even that just 3 little panels plugged in, and we've seen a reduction in our power bill because it's drawing less, so our power bill
Mhm.
has gone down. So we've seen that, definitely. How efficient are panels these days? I know that
Mhm.
technology is ever changing, and
Mhm.
they're getting better and better. It used to be at like 20 to 25, 30%. Is it still running there, or have the panels gotten better?
Well, yeah, of course, the panels are continuing to get more efficient. We at Positive Energy, we're sourcing 425-watt panels
Mm,
and about to be bringing in a new 440-watt panel.
nice.
So they're getting bigger and bigger per panel. So basically, that means you get to produce more energy per panel that you have.
Mhm.
And the efficiency rate that you were talking about, actually the most efficient panels on the market really these days are around 22%.
Mm.
So, we're right there. Our panels are 20.5 to 21% efficient. So, and that is also a factor in terms of the longevity of the production capacity of a panel. So how long can my panels last producing energy? And that's a really important question for folks to think about with an investment like this. 30 years down the line, we're guaranteeing folks with the warranty that we provide that their system is going to be producing in a quality, to high quality. And that means that at least 85% the capacity from this installation of the system. But these systems can produce 40 to 50 years down the line, if there's not any extreme weather, events that would determine otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
New Mexico and its little whirlwinds that go through. I'm not used to that. Like when the dust devils roll through and everything in your yard goes flying and there's nothing anywhere else in your yard, but there's a whirly do go through your yard. Like, really?
I used to chase those around the playground as a kid.
That's why you plant trees. That was something that we learned. That one of the local residents down here said that you plant trees. That's why there are a lot of trees, because they hit the trees and it dissipates. It goes away. If you just got flat land, it goes across your land and picks up everything. We've had it almost pick up a pergola. And it's the power is strong. But if you have a good mount, it's mounted well on your roof, and they're low profile on the roof usually. Anyway, it's not like they're sticking out in the middle of nowhere. They're tucked down, to keep them safe.
Yeah. Our engineering team does a good job to ensure that, as far as roof mounted systems, these panels are going to be able to withstand upward of 9,500 mile per hour winds, and then the ground mount systems are even stronger.
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm seeing more and more. We just went to the botanical gardens for the first time in a few years and pulled into the parking lot, and it's got covered parking now, and it's all solar. And it's like that to me, the first time I saw that was like, duh, that is perfect shade for those underneath, and lots more space for solar panels on top. So
right.
No, that's one of the things I've been most inspired about working with Positive Energy is the longevity and the track record that they have, that they've installed a lot of the biggest projects all around Santa Fe, all around New Mexico, really, the big carports. I mean, basically the places in the parking lots where folks can park their car under. We call them carports, that we've installed those at a lot of the schools, big arrays at the Buckman Diversion Project, so huge projects. And that's a wonderful source of expertise to be around. So I've been learning a lot.
Yeah. Wow. And how long have you been doing this?
Well, I'm pretty new to the company. I've only been here for about 3 months.
Okay.
I've been working in the industry for a few years, but I just hopped on board with Positive Energy in December.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what's an average? Is there an average cost? Like at a minimum, it'll run you, or a maximum kind of thing? Is it?
I don't think there's a maximum, but is there a minimum?
Yeah, I don't know if we've met a maximum yet. A minimum, yeah, generally, we have minimum size requirements for taking on a system, but it's really going to vary depending on the project and what folks are needing. But to give you like an average price range, for an average family home with 2 to 4 people, you're going to be looking between 20 and 35 grand, depending on their their usage and how much how many people are in the house, what times of day they're regularly using electricity, what kinds of appliances they use, how long do they leave the TV on, or do they have electric heating. Planning to build your own power plant for your house is a very complicated process.
Mhm.
There's a lot to consider. So it's kind of hard to be like, it's not like being a radio salesman where you can just like say, you know, it's $25 for this boombox, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and imagine it's changed a lot since the pandemic, and people are working from home. Like I was thinking about that.
Mhm.
I work from home, so during the middle of the day, that's my biggest, actually more consumption during the day for me. Whereas somebody who maybe works in an office, their
Right.
house is dark all day, dark and quiet kind of thing. It's
Mhm.
never ending here.
Mhm.
You know, both my husband and I
Yep.
work from home. You know,
Mhm.
so there's always,
It's
I got my ring light on apparently all day, every day.
yeah. Yeah, and
Meaning,
of course, you know, homes are becoming more efficient.
yeah,
Folks are ideally installing LEDs where they can to reduce the lighting cost. You know, the windows are being installed to bring more
yeah,
insulation. Folks are getting more high efficiency appliances,
Mhm.
which can be big drains when we have those older units. And there's a lot of rebates that are available from the utility company to
mhm.
support those upgrades.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That's true. They actually, P&M is really big on wanting you to upgrade and get higher efficiency stuff. A refrigerator
Hmm.
that costs you, $120 a year to run, as opposed to,
Hmm.
I love it when I see my Frigidaire is 30 years old and it's been running and it's really great. It's like, yeah, but it costs $1,000 a year to run that thing because you can
Yeah.
literally hear it going on the power. I know. Come on, you got to know that the thing is, yeah. And if you look at it cross-eyed, it makes that weird noise. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
upgrading to the latest is great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
definitely.
Yeah.
so somebody calls and says, "Okay, I'm interested." Then you make an appointment with them and go out to their house and then have a conversation apparently about what their needs are and all that kind of thing. Hmm?
Mhm. Yeah, you know, positive energy is different than a lot of other solar companies out on the market these days. We don't knock on doors
Mhm.
and solicit people, which is kind of an aspect of the solar business that has brought a bad rap on the industry.
Mhm.
Um, you know, personally, I've learned about a lot of folks who have dealt with companies like that and have been treated wrong, but positive energy is maintaining an integrity where, you know, our process really is folks who basically learn about us, come to one of our programs, or, you know, see some of our marketing out in the community. They'll ask for a consultation. We get
Mhm.
a PNM bill, and I'm able to go out and give a site visit, look around the house, check out the electrical infrastructure. What kind of main electric panel do they have? You
Mhm.
know, is everything up to code? You know,
Ah,
ideally we don't deal with too many of those issues where we have to do big infrastructure changes to the house, but we assess what kind of electric consumption changes there might be in the future of the house. You know, is there a family that's going to grow? You know, is there going to be an electric vehicle that the family adopts in the next few years? And you want to consider, oh, I might be driving, you know, 10,000 miles a year on my EV, so I want to be able to charge it off the solar panels. I might be getting electric heating with a heat pump, a mini split, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
like to charge
right.
off the solar. Yeah, thinking about things like that when we do the site visit, and
Yeah.
then we give a proposal, and folks get to decide, you know, how they want to go ahead.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people are realize mini splits another fantastic
Right.
money saver. Like we've got the old beast and this is the thing that drives my husband crazy. You'll appreciate this is so we've got the hot water heater in the garage where it gets to below freezing. So it has to kick on all the time to keep the water from freezing in the hot, that whole thing. So and then that's propane that we live on propane. So it's a inefficient system, but this house
Mhm.
is 20 something 30 something years old now, 30 years old now. And
Mhm.
so like I said, the technology keeps going and we get better and better tools to work with. It'd be
Mhm.
great when we replace the swamp cooler and the heater, it'll definitely be with something like a mini split, because why have these big outdated systems
Right.
that just
Mhm.
eat power
Mm-hmm.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
it's interesting that so you're not, do you sell systems that plug right back into the power grid and so that people can roll that back, or are you really focusing on having batteries on site and having your own powerhouse?
Well, we actually focus primarily on net metering interconnected systems. So solar systems that are connected to the local utility grid. That gives us a lot more versatility in how we
Mhm.
can support folks in having a consistent power supply. Being able to meet all their needs and basically increase the amount of savings that they can see.
Okay.
Right.
When you start to consider battery storage and basically creating backup power systems, there is a lot more cost to consider at the start.
Oh yeah, batteries
Um,
are ridiculous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting more and more economical
Yeah.
as the years go on and more efficient. So it's a pretty amazing time
Hmm.
to be able to even assess the possibility of putting a battery in. And we're using top of the line batteries that, folks can potentially, back up their whole house for a few days if they want.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as doing anything off grid, projects that aren't connected to the grid, that's something that we rarely are really working on these days just because of the complexity.
Hmm.
If it's a very big project, we do sometimes take those on, but we often just refer those off-grid systems. People out in the mountains in the boonies that they just want to get their system set up with a battery. We have some contractors that we can refer them to.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Cool. Yeah,
Interesting.
it is. For those of us who live out in the boonies,
Yeah.
so because when our power goes off, that's also our well. I think Pam, you're in the
Mhm.
same situation. So that means like no water, no electricity means no water for us too. So we have to
Right.
wait.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it's amazing how hard it is to forget to flush the toilet. Right? It's like don't. You go in, you come out, you go, oh man. Yeah. We're from little kids. If you think about it, you're conditioned from what,
Right.
toddler size, right?
Right.
So
Right.
Mhm.
yeah, it's like autopilot. But
Yeah.
very cool. It's so what's the so far the most interesting, because I know you've just been there for a few minutes. What's the most interesting situation? And has anybody come up and with a pickle for you to go, huh? How
Yeah,
that?
yeah, definitely. There has recently been a housing community that was previously designed as a uh, kind of like a hotel retreat center. It's
Mm,
in Santa Fe proper in the city,
Mhm.
but that hotel retreat center basically went bankrupt. It then got bought out by the city of Santa Fe. The housing trust co-opted some of the properties, and then some of the other properties were sold as private units. Um, One of the tenants was noticing that their HOA fees continued to go higher and higher, and they were wondering how can we basically level that out. And she was hoping that we could do some kind of community connected solar array that might reduce the electrical costs of the tenants, and potentially even make some money for them, because basically the concept that with solar systems that are big enough, you can actually get somewhat of a return on excess
mhm.
production
Mm.
from the utility company that they'll pay back on the offset of it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was a pickle.
Okay. How do yeah, which and figuring out, yeah, the wiring and where to put it and the whole
Yeah, there's like 5 meters for the main common unit, like the common facilities. So, we have to do one connection for each meter, and it just makes a lot of monkeying around for not really as much benefit as you could get if it was just a consolidated
yeah.
system.
Interesting.
Well, I'm sure you run into a lot of that with because when you were talking about um, replacing wiring, things like that. One of the great things about New Mexico is, it's 400 years old. So one not so great thing about New Mexico is that it's 400 years old. So there's buildings that, they weren't built with internal wiring, right? Or they, that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's something we run into in Santa Fe very often. So
Right.
we're very practiced with doing upgrades on the main electrical panels and things like that, digging out electrical meters from stucco.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, you would have to be because well, first I'm sure you've got the historical folk that stand around you and go, are you doing that the right way? Being very cautious of all the historical buildings. But what do you do with a house that's maybe 200 years old and you want to run power to it?
Actually, interestingly enough, Positive Energy just recently completed an installation on the San Miguel Chapel, which is as far as I know, it's the oldest chapel in the United States. Which was a kind of a momentous project, engineering wise.
Wow, how exciting, though.
Yeah, really cool project.
That's wow. Oldest church in the USA.
That's
as
far as I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
1610. Amazing.
Wow. Did you just Google that? Why
I did Google it. Yes. I was like, I want to know what the oldest church in the USA. Of course it's here. I have no clue. Like me, I'm from California, right? New Mexico was not where I pictured myself ending up, but the longer I'm here, the more it's like I find myself saying wow more often than not. A lot of times now it's like, really? My son's in architecture, and so he comes home and he talks about these old buildings. So I'm going to ask him if he knows about this church. But some of these cathedrals and churches and things like that are hundreds of years old
and beautiful. So amazing.
Yeah, it was a really cool project, and partnership with the Common Grounds Association here in Santa Fe. So that's something that Positive Energy has been big about, is partnering, as a benefit corporation, we've been partnering with nonprofits and doing community outreach and social impact projects for the history of the company. That's one of the things I'm proud about being connected with. That's actually how I've been continuing to partner with the Human Rights Alliance, and that's how I met Pam originally. And donating food to the Food Depot for each system that we're producing. And
wow.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being a guest on the podcast.
I'm going to put up your website here. So it's positiveenergysolar.com, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I would encourage folks to reach out to me directly. Love to service, the community and get my feet wet supporting you. I'm a native Santa Fean all my life here. And my email is michael.meade@positiveenergysolar.com.
Perfect.
Yep, we'll put that up on the screen so people have
I can do that. Michael.meade at positive. I'm doing this as we speak. Positive Energy Solar.
They gave me a real smooth email address. Rolls right off your tongue, right? It's like not too many letters.
I win. Okay.
Great job. Almost. You missed the G there on the energy, but it's all good.
Okay, wait.
You get the
Energy. So God, he's got good eyes too. All right. There we go. All right. Let's try
there
we go.
Yep. Michael.Meade, MEADE @positiveenergysolar.com for those that are listening on the podcast and not watching it on video.
Which is good. We scrambled around.
Right. So thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Michael, for being such a great guest today.
Thank you so much. Really grateful for y'all.
Bye.
Have a great